Hello everyone, it's Wednesday, June 3rd. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is your 3 News Now afternoon update. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here to keep you updated on the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app, which if you don't have, you should download so that you can make sure you get those push notifications so you're up to date on everything that we're talking about here today. And you can always find every story that we talk about here today on the WKYC.com website and in the WKYC app, which we have recently updated. So, good time to download that. We have recently gotten the new numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health. Those just came in at 2 p.m., so we'll let you know where we stand when it comes to COVID-19 cases here in the state of Ohio. Right now, from yesterday in the past 24 hours, we are up in every category except for deaths where we are down. So there have been new reported cases, new reported hospitalizations, and new reported ICU admissions in a greater number in the past 24 hours than we saw yesterday on Tuesday. But the number of reported deaths in the past 24 hours is down. So let's break those numbers down now. Today at 2 p.m., we saw a total of 442 new reported cases of COVID-19. That is both positive tests as well as probable cases of COVID-19 under the expanded CDC definition. That brings the total number of cases in the state of Ohio since March 9th to 36,792. The jump in new reported cases today is significant. It's in the 80 range. There were 366 new reported cases on Tuesday. There were 41 new reported deaths today. That is down from Tuesday when there were 52 new reported deaths. And Monday there were 51 new reported deaths, bringing the total number of deaths dating back to March 9th when we first learned about COVID-19 being in Ohio to 2,299. So just under 2,300 total deaths related to COVID-19 now here in the state of Ohio. Today we saw 75 new hospitalizations reported. That's up from yesterday when we saw 64 new hospitalizations reported, and on Monday there were 63 new hospitalizations reported. That brings the total number of people hospitalized since we've learned of COVID-19 being in Ohio to 6,251. When we look at ICU admissions, there were 21 new ICU admissions reported today at 2 p.m. from the Ohio Department of Health. That's up from yesterday when there were 14 new ICU admissions reported, and on Monday when there were 13 new ICU admissions reported, bringing the total number of people who have been in the intensive care unit related to COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio, dating all the way back to March 9th, to now 1,604. Taking a look at where the cases stand in terms of the U.S. and globally, the total number of U.S. cases is now 1,839,000 roughly, and the total number of U.S. deaths is now 106,553. If we look at how we stand compared to the rest of the country, the U.S. has a total of about 29% of the reported global cases of COVID-19 and about 28% of the reported global deaths related to COVID-19. The global number of cases is now at 6,435,000 roughly, and the total number of deaths globally is now at 302,094. Former President Barack Obama is expected to address the nation today about George Floyd's death publicly for the first time. He'll be addressing people on camera. That'll be today at 5 p.m. Eastern from his website, Obama.org. Now, this is part of the former president's My Brother's Keeper Alliance Town Hall series. He's going to be joined by former Attorney General Eric Holder, along with activists who are fighting for reform in policing. The My Brother's Keeper Alliance is part of the Obama Foundation, and the mission of that organization and this initiative is to inspire American youth of color by working to advocate for causes in their communities. Obama has previously addressed the country about the death of George Floyd, who was killed by a police officer kneeling on his neck as he repeatedly said he could not breathe. That was on Monday, May 25th. Obama has also talked about the protests, but this will be the first time he's actually making on-camera comments related to what happened last week. So that'll be at 5 p.m. on Obama.org. Here in Northeast Ohio, a Canton police officer has resigned before he could be fired over what has been called an indefensible social media post. The officer's name is Andrew Russ, and he resigned effective today after 6 years on the force with the Canton Police Department. In a letter that simply read, quote, "I resign my position as a Canton City police officer effective today." The post, as described by the Canton Repository, included a photo of the officer wearing police tactical gear, holding some type of a drink in a can with racial slurs and a threat about shooting. The post went up at 6 p.m. yesterday, and it was up for about 5 or 10 minutes before it was taken down. Canton Police Chief Jack Angelo told the Canton Repository this: "I found out about it around 8 p.m. and I sent the patrol supervisor to his house to get his gun, badge, and city equipment, and he was placed on suspension. He and the union were advised of a determination hearing." However, according to the chief, Russ did not show up at that hearing and instead tendered that resignation today. Today, in a press release, Chief Angelo said, "Late last night, the Canton Police Department became aware of a highly inappropriate post by a Canton police officer on social media." He went on to say the officer involved has resigned prior to being terminated, and then he said this: "The officer's conduct is unacceptable and not in line with the standards of the Canton Police Department. The Canton Police Department condemns all forms of racism. Please do not judge all officers by the action of one former police officer. The Canton Police Department is and will continue to be dedicated to serving the community." Angelo also told the Canton Repository that he doesn't even want to know a reason why the post was posted, that it's indefensible, and in 31 years he has never been so upset with a police officer as he was with Russ for posting this post, and who has now resigned and is no longer with the Canton Police Department. Here in Cleveland, the Cleveland Heights Police Department has posted about a protest that they've learned about happening. This is a planned peaceful protest taking place today. That's planned for 3:30 p.m. at Cleveland Heights City Hall. People are expected to assemble on Severance Circle, which is across from the old movie theater, and that assembly is expected to kick off starting at 2:30 p.m. So here's what the Cleveland Heights Police Department said in their Facebook post about this planned peaceful protest. "We recognize and welcome the right of our residents to express their opinions and to be heard. To help facilitate the process and ensure peace, we reached out to the organizers of the protest who were receptive to working with city officials to have a successful and meaningful protest. We want to thank them in advance for their cooperation and look forward to a peaceful demonstration." So that is how they are handling things here in Cleveland Heights today. George Floyd's family will be visiting a memorial site in Minneapolis today. Family members, as well as their civil rights attorney, Ben Crump, they actually already visited. They arrived at the memorial site in Minneapolis and spoke with the press there. At that memorial site, they found messages left by visitors, murals, chalk art, activists, and people who were there grieving on the scene. This is located in Minneapolis at 38th and Chicago in the South Side. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz also visited the site with his wife Gwen. They were hoping to get a more personal sense of what people were feeling at this time by visiting the memorial site. Walz said this: "There's many emotions that run through my wife and I as human beings with a 13-year-old. I think for me to understand this from a human perspective, I have to go see it personally, and it's just really hard." To remind you, it was former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin who has been charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter related to the killing of George Floyd. 3 other officers involved have not yet been charged, but they have all been fired from the Minneapolis police force. A broader investigation is coming into the Minneapolis Police Department. The Minnesota Department of Human Rights has announced that it will file a civil rights charge against the Minneapolis Police Department. Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca Lucero said this is not like a task force that will produce a study that just sits on a shelf and gathers dust. The end goal here is to bring about change in the state's largest police department, even if it takes a court order. That's according to Lucero. So Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan said the investigation, of course, was sparked by George Floyd's death, but it's really focused on the overall culture of the Minneapolis Police Department related to how it treats people of color in the city. So the Human Rights Department of Minnesota will investigate the past 10 years of Minneapolis Police Department policies and practices. Here's a direct quote from Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. It's clear that tragedies, such as the one that happened to George Floyd, do not emerge from a few isolated bad actors, but from patterns of misconduct. That investigation is expected to kick off shortly. Back here at home in Ohio, Ohio State University has named a new president. The Ohio State University announced that Christina Johnson will succeed retiring Michael Drake as the school's president. That will be effective September 1st. Johnson has previously been the head of the State University of New York system. That was since 2017. She's been heading up the SUNY system. Here's what Johnson said. I am humbled to be selected to lead this great land-grant university, and I look forward to meeting with students, faculty, and staff to begin our work together. Johnson's grandfather, here's a fun fact for you, actually graduated from Ohio State in 1896 and played on one of the very early football teams for the Buckeyes. Current President Michael Drake announced that he'd be retiring in November, and he has been the president since June of 2014. So in September, he will be passing that torch to Christina Johnson. Congratulations, Christina Johnson. Welcome back to Ohio. That is your 3 News Now afternoon update for June 3rd. Next up, we have What's New at 5 p.m. I'll see you there. We also have more coverage coming for you on what matters most at 6 p.m., on Front Row at 7 p.m., and What's Next at 11 p.m. You can find all of those on WKYC.com and also on the WKYC app, which we talked about. So if you'd like to download that, now is a great time to do that so you can watch all of those broadcasts free of charge if you don't have cable. And I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. with your 3 News Now early update. Everybody have a great rest of your early evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.